First off, Happy New Year. It's 2021 and yep, things have gotten off to a crazy start, but that's not what this channel is about. So right now, I'm going to tell you about a new TV show, one I didn't actually expect to be covering, but there you go. But a little bit of background first. So if you already know about all this kind of stuff, feel absolutely free to jump ahead to the recap portion, which will begin at the timestamp here. Unless you've been living under a rock for like the last 12 years or so, you've probably heard of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Those are all the films about the comic book heroes from the Marvel stable, as opposed to the ones from the DC, like Superman and Batman. And there have been about 22, 23 films or something like that by now, covering the escapades and adventures of people like Iron Man, Captain America, the Hulk, Thor, Spider-Man, and all the rest of them. And every now and again they have a big team-up movie where they all get together and save the world, and those are the Avengers films. Now, I'm pretty much sure that you've probably heard of the Avengers movies, considering the last two of them that came out were, I think, the most financially successful movies of all time ever. And the reason I bring all this up is because until now, they haven't had a proper TV show to go along with this. And now Disney has decided to drop a whole bunch of them into the franchise. I mean, sure, yeah, there were the ones on Netflix, The Punisher and Daredevil, Jessica Jones, the New York shows, which weren't really connected to the films, and they're probably going to all be recast with new actors soon anyway. So there's no point really talking about those. And there was the really awful show Agents of S.W.O.R.D, but that's kind of best left forgotten. But as I said, Disney now owns MCU, and they've decided to do much the same as they did with Star Wars, and release a whole bunch of TV shows spinning off from it, all exclusive to the Disney Plus channel, and all directly tying into what happens in the next bunch of films. And the first of these is called WandaVision. And Wanda's a character also known as Scarlet Witch, and she turned up with her brother Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron. That was the one where evil robots tried to take over the world. And during the film, her big brother got dead, Wanda ended up becoming part of the good guy team, and in that exact same movie, Tony and Bruce accidentally create a superhuman robot dude called Vision, or The Vision, I think he was called in the comics, but he's just called Vision now. But he turns out to be a really nice guy, and he can even hold Thor's hammer, he's that worthy, as opposed to the bad robots. You still with me so far? Fantastic. Now, if you remember the last couple of Avengers movies, the big two-parter, in the first part, Avengers Infinity War, Wanda and Vision became romantically ill-entangled, and they went on a secret getaway where they were having a wee holiday in Edinburgh. Of course, this led to him getting stabbed by bad guys, and in the end of the movie, him ended up getting dead by Thanos to get the secret Infinity Gem that was in his forehead. And even though Wanda ended up surviving after everything got reversed in the second part of the films, Avengers Endgame, it turns out that Vision couldn't be saved. And that's literally where things were left for Wanda. And for Vision. Which brings us all neatly up to the new TV show, WandaVision. Episode 1 of WandaVision kicks off in old-fashioned black and white square vision, where a cute and kooky intro sequence tells us that Wanda and Vision, the robot and the witch, are married and trying to pass themselves off as a normal couple in suburban America. And the first episode all revolves around both of them seeing a date on the calendar, highlighted with a heart shape, and both of them struggling to work out what this special occasion was because they can't remember. And while Wanda's getting help from Agnes, the kindly if slightly nosy next door neighbour, Vision goes to work and supercomputing through his daily workload. And Wanda starts thinking that it must mean it's their anniversary, while Vision realises that in fact he's actually agreed to have his boss, Mr. Hart, over for dinner with his wife. And of course, both assumes that the other knows what's really going on and they get confused, and so far, so sitcom. And when the Harts turn up at the house, there's all kind of hijinks aplenty when lots is made of Wanda's Eastern European heritage, explaining away the weird madness and magical stuff and the strange food, and it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a show like this. Right up until the point where Mr. Hart starts to choke on his dinner, and things take a slightly strange turn.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Vision, help him.
But, you know, Vision saves him, and after that, it's all back to normal. At least for the characters. As they settle down for the evening and they turn on the TV, the show fades out into a strange, modern-looking facility, where it seems that they might just be being watched. So what did I think? Well, I've actually been quite curious to see WandaVision ever since the very first trailer came out that was kind of confusing. Now, that was the middle of last autumn. And in an awful lot of ways, it reminded me of the absolutely crazy bonkers show Legion, which is kind of a strange one, sort of related to this, because it is a superhero show, because it's set in the X-Men universe. And if you love weird TV, you should definitely check it out. I mean, it's kind of like if somebody took The Prisoner, crossed it with Twin Peaks, and threw in a whole load of weird modern-day madness into it. And I'm pleasantly surprised that while I'm still getting a bit of that vibe from WandaVision, I'm also getting a real sense of it being very much its own show with its own idea. I mean, to start with, it's a totally bold choice to make the first episode a cheeky but loving parody of the old American sitcoms, things like I Love Lucy, and also, I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched and shows like that, and it really seems to be taking pointers from the early black and white episodes of shows like that. And what's really fun about the episode is not only is it a parody of those shows, it actually feels like it's almost a good example, like a show that could have existed like that way. And it really, the jokes were kind of corny but fun. The situation was predictable, but it wasn't depressingly so. It wasn't cringy. It wasn't a little bit uncomfortable to watch. It didn't make you roll your eyes. It just felt like good, honest, clean fun. And a lot of that was down to the actors. I mean, I don't need to say an awful lot about Paul Bettany. I mean, the guy is a phenomenal actor, and I mean, most people seem to know this, especially in the UK, because he does a lot more TV stuff, or at least he used to before he did like big movie things. And he's been absolutely killing it on screen as far back as things like A Knight's Tale, or picking up critical praise on things like A Beautiful Mind and Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. I mean, put plainly, Paul Bettany can do this kind of stuff in his sleep. And Elizabeth Olsen, I mean, she's a real revelation in this, and not that it's a massive surprise. I mean, I've got to admit, sure, when she first started out and stuff, I mean, I kind of lumped her in with her older sisters, the Olsen twins, and assumed she was one of these ex-Disney show kind of kid actor types who probably wouldn't do anything particularly exciting. But then I saw her in the remake of Oldboy, and then she turned up in the MCU films, and she was always good in them. And what really sold me was the movie Wind River, now, which is actually a really good film. It's on Netflix, and you should check it out. I mean, it's got fellow MCU alumni Jeremy Renner in it, and it's about her being an FBI agent investigating the murder of an indigenous girl on a Native American reservation in Wyoming. Seriously, it's just a really good film. You should check it out. But also, I loved that they got Deborah Jo Rupp, who was the mum in that 70s show, and she's done lots of other Broadway and stage stuff. And the guy who played her husband, Fred Mellamel, he was really good, and he did his little bit of cheesy acting, but, perfectly serviceable. But to me, the real wild card of the episode was them casting Catherine Hahn as Agnes. Now, she's an interesting actress, because I've only seen her in a few things. One of them was the film The Visitors, which, she was only in briefly, but she was fine. And the TV show I Love Dick, which was cancelled after one season and was kind of a bit odd, but it's actually not as lewd as the title suggests. It didn't really strike me as the kind of thing I'd be interested in watching. But she's turning up in a lot of stuff, and she's considered to be a really interesting and good actress. And what intrigues me about her is, having seen the trailer for this show, she seems to be in it quite a lot. So I would guess that while I know this show is going to definitely change the eras of TV sitcom that it's based around, she's clearly in all of them. So, I mean, that makes me kind of assume that the other actors like, Melamed and Rupp are probably going to turn up again. And it seems odd that they cast an actress like Han in such a small role if she was only going to be the nosy neighbour for 2 seconds in one episode. And I actually really didn't have many issues with this first episode. I thought it was really fine. I am slightly confused though as to how and where the show is going. I mean, I think that's the point. And let's just say it's kind of cute and fun that they're doing the sitcom thing, and that they only had the one moment of things aren't quite right in this episode, although there are a lot of little lines and moments and that kind of hint at something being a bit strange. Like Wanda especially keeps stopping to pause and realising that she doesn't know things that she should know, and like, when did her and Vision get married, and when did they get together, and why did they move to this strange suburban house? And I mean, in fact, I really like that little moment where they start getting asked those questions, and he bangs his hand on the table, and that's just before he starts choking, which was interesting.
Damn it, why?
And also, there was the weird little advert in the middle of the episode, and that's nothing new. I mean, shows have had fake ads in them before. I mean, that's a thing that's been done before. And I kind of liked the fact that they had this idea that it was a Stark model toaster. But what was interesting about it is that was the one time we actually saw colour in this episode, because there was a little red light that lit up on the toaster. Now, that was also interesting because that's almost highlights as saying you should be paying attention to this. And then the ad literally says,
"Forget the past. This is your future."
Now, sure, again, this is episode 1, and I'm sure these weird points will get built on over the series, and I'm quite sure these are going to be things that will get answered eventually in the story. But yeah, as I said, there was nothing that I didn't like about this episode. So, yeah, considering they dropped the first 2 episodes the same day, I'm just going to jump straight in and watch episode 2. So expect the episode for that online as soon as I've actually managed to write up, record, and then edit it together. But so far, I'm really intrigued by the show, and yeah, definitely recommend this. You should maybe check this one out. So till next time, this was WandaVision, and you've been watching a largely non-grumpy opinion. So, good way to start off a new year. Bye-bye. And a special thanks to everybody listening, and especially my patrons, and most especially to Michelle Forbes and Judith Coloma, my top tier patrons. Thank you, everybody. Everybody stay safe. Cheerio. There's an ice cream van passing by. It's like 3 degrees outside. Why is there an ice cream van?